Hi everyone, this is astrologer Johnny Barnett. This is the first in a new series I'm starting about just little astrological bits of wisdom and insight. So if you're interested in astrology, you can learn a little bit more about what you're looking at. And so today, the first one, we're going to talk about the big difference between the inner 7 planets and the outer 3 planets, which really came from my realization about the connection between the chakras and the planets, which of course leads to me calling what I do chakraology. Um, in the ancient world, of course, all the sevens were known to be related and connected, including in the astrological world with the connection with the chakras. I don't know why no one's talking about this these days, besides myself, but it goes way, way back. In fact, there's a picture I discovered from 400 years ago showing a guy with the chakra symbols inside of his body and the planet symbols inside of the chakras. Drawn by a European, no less, 400 years ago. So this information's been out for a long time. It goes back centuries, as far as I can tell. And so, why is it that those 7 inner planets are different and have to be considered different from those 3 outer planets? Well, you can see the 7 with your own eyes. So let's go over the 7: Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. You can actually see these heavenly bodies, or these light bodies. We call them planets because that's the Greek word for light moving around the sky, even though we, of course, know that the sun and moon are not technically planets in our modern language. But these 7, like I said, you can see apparently moving around the earth and around us, and they are visible. We can track them. We can see them for ourselves. The 3 outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, you need a telescope to see them. They are beyond the reach of your physical senses, so to speak, and so therefore they represent forces that are beyond your physical knowing or your physical control. They are spiritual forces. They are representative of the spiritual forces. And so you can't go around saying Scorpio is ruled by Pluto and Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. It just doesn't make sense. If you look, and I'll show a graphic here if I figure out the technology for doing that, but when you look at the zodiac, you'll see that the sun and the moon rule Leo and Cancer, and then moving out in either direction, the next sign in either direction, Scorpio, Virgo, and Gemini are ruled by Mercury, the first planet closest to the sun. The next 2 signs, Libra and Taurus, are ruled by Venus, the next closest planet to the sun. The next 2 signs, skipping over the Earth, of course, because you are the Earth, Scorpio and Aries, ruled by Mars. The next 2 signs ruled by the next planet moving out from the sun. Jupiter rules Sagittarius and Pisces. And then the last planet furthest from the sun that you can see with your own eyes, Saturn, rules the last 2 signs furthest away on the circle from the sun and the moon. Saturn rules Capricorn and Aquarius. So this can be really confusing, especially for Aquariuses who think they're so out of the box and original and unique, which is true, they are. But when you pair it with the planet Saturn, which is kind of stodgy and conservative, it's a bit of a head scratcher. And so you have to realize the nature of Capricorn and the nature of Aquarius. And this is a great example because it's interesting that Capricorn and Aquarius are the only 2 signs ruled by the same planet who are right next to each other, one after the other. And the first 2 signs of every 3 signs are opposites of each other. That's another lesson, another video we'll get to sometime in the future. But for now, let's just leave it at Capricorns and Aquarius are both ruled by Saturn, although they are very, very different from each other. So there you have your 7 planets, your sun, your moon. These are all the parts of you that are really easily recognizable, tangible, somewhat predictable. The planets that are not predictable, especially Uranus, who lives for unpredictability, Neptune, which is mysterious, so once again, hard to predict, Pluto, which is just completely unseen until it's right there in your life. So Pluto, of course, represents the underworld. So it's the unseen forces that are beneath the surface. Like there's your ego, your consciousness, your awareness of what's going on in your life and how you think and feel. And then there's all this other stuff, sometimes boiling, sometimes bubbling up to the surface during a Pluto transit, but also where Pluto is connected to one of your personal or inner planets, Sun, Moon, Venus, Mars, Mercury, etc., shows where you can tap in to the underworld, where you have an extraordinary gift. I say gift with parentheses around it because Pluto is difficult to handle, but when you can tap into it and roll with it, you find Pluto has extraordinary power. So those inner planets, when they're connecting with one of the outer planets, shows where spirit is most easily accessible, where it comes through. Like great athletes very often have a Mars-Neptune connection in their chart, whether it's a square or a trine or an opposition or any aspect between your Mars and your Neptune is going to provide you with what I call a spiritual element, which is to say an unknowable element or an unpredictable element or an uncontrollable element. Spirit, in my way of looking at the world, occupies the other side of the physical world. So everything that you can touch, taste, see, smell, and hear is in the physical realm. Everything else is in this other realm. I use words like spirit and energy and consciousness and God interchangeably. To me, all those words represent those forces, or excuse me, those parts of our life which you cannot touch, taste, see, smell, or hear. So because they're beyond our knowing in many ways, I see them as spiritual amplifiers. And it's the point is they're there to teach us things we don't know. So that's why I say they're beyond our knowing. The lesson is to be learned as we go through life. So when you're looking at your chart, take a look and see which of the outer planets are connecting with which of the inner 7 planets, and you will begin to see where these forces, which sometimes are experienced as challenges and other times are experienced as gifts, depending on your attitude and the circumstances, you'll see where these spiritual forces most often show up in your world. So there you have it. The 7, very, very different from the 3. And that's your little astrological insight for this time. Hope to see you next time.